Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And I am honored to have today's guest, Sal Bellia. Um, Sal, how you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Excellent. I may start talking in a New England accent. It seems to rub off on me every time I talk to someone from the Northeast. So, um, welcome, Sal. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what are you up to these days?
Sure. Yeah. I am co-founder and CEO of Bell and Williams Associates. We're a national repossession management agency and a collection agency. We had brought on and sold to private equity company, the majority of our company, at least, a little over 2 years ago. So it's been quite a run. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary this past February, and I continue to lead the company, and that's what I do in most of my professional time. And it's very rewarding. It's been a great run, like I said, with my business partner and I, and we've got a great group of teammates that are with us throughout the journey, and some of them from day one. I mean, it's really been great to just see how people's lives have evolved. Their professional careers have evolved, and our first client that we ever landed is still on with us all these years later. So it's been a great ride. It's been a great trip. Um, Ever since we sold to private equity, I've had a little bit more free time to take some other professional interests up. I have been doing some consulting work for local small businesses and local small startups, and doing some investing in that space as well. So that's equally as rewarding. Just trying to kind of steward this next generation of business owners,
Yes.
and where they need guidance, give them guidance, and where I think there could be an opportunity for an investment, make an investment. And it's exciting. It's really exciting, and it's I find it. I'm very humbled that I'm able to kind of play this role in people's lives at this stage of my career. It's really really rewarding.
That's awesome, Sal. I mean, one of the things that you're just speaking about. Well, first of all, your industry, the debt collection, repo industry, it's not for the faint of heart. It can be a very tough industry to be in. I spent a few years in the third party world, so I got a little taste of what you've been doing for a number of years, and um, to have people there that have been with your organization for since the beginning and to still have clients there that you've had since the beginning is a testament to you, your leadership, and the ethical pursuit that your organization handles its business with. So hats off to you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, really, it's the only industry I know. I graduated from college in 2002, and I was literally weeks away from going to law school, and I haphazardly fell into the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did. I mean, looking back, I really didn't even know what debt collection was, or
Hmm.
anything about the industry. And I agreed to take a job for a year, um,
Yep.
from somebody that lived in my town that owned a collection agency at the time.
Uh,
And very, very quickly, I took to the industry and really kind of took to the capitalistic nature of the industry, and really the meritocracy of the way the organization was set up, in
mhm.
terms of, for lack of better terminology, you kind of you eat what you kill. And
Yeah.
I was at a time in my life where I was young, I was hungry, I didn't have a whole lot of responsibility, other than myself. So I was really kind of just immersed into the business, worked a whole lot of hours, and put a lot of kind of sweat equity into honing the craft, and learning all the
Mhm.
different angles of the business, not just the collection piece, but the sales piece. Learned a little bit about IT, learned a lot about management, a lot of lessons learned that really helped me and my business partner launch our own company in 2008.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it can be a stressful industry. I think that different people manage stress differently.
Yep.
um, and so I really compartmentalize the stresses of the industry. So when we're at work, it's work, and when I leave work, I take that hat off, so to speak, and I've really kind of learned to be able to play in those different sandboxes, if you will, and kind of leave work at work.
Well, and the industry itself has changed so much over the last 15 or 20 years. Um, and to still have a thriving organization, like yours, I mean, it's a testament to some of those lessons that you may have learned about leading and managing, and doing the right things when nobody's looking. Uh, that type of thought process. So we you started to dive into this a little bit. I want to kind of uh, dive in a little bit deeper. So you've had a very successful professional career, and if you could look back and tell your younger self, one thing, at this stage, basically at this stage in your career, if I could tell my younger self X, what would that be? And would it have changed the trajectory or how you navigated your career up to this point?
It's a wonderful question. It's a question that I live through several times a week,
Uh,
and it manifests itself a couple different ways. Number one, I have a whole group of people that I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with that are younger, and they're up and coming in their own worlds, and I often find myself giving this group of friends advice, whether it's business advice, financial advice, or otherwise. I also have three young sons that are becoming of the age where they're starting to ask a lot of questions, and they're listening a little bit more, and their attention spans are a little bit better. So
yeah.
Just trying to teach from any mistakes I've made. And I know I could sit here all day, Mark, and probably all week, and tell you about all the mistakes I've made over the years. But I would say, there's really a few that stand out professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is, I wish I took a few more risks when I was younger. And again, my younger self, the assumption there is that my younger self is someone that didn't have as much responsibility as I have now. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I wasn't married with kids at the time. So my advice to either my younger self or somebody in my position, 20 years ago, is take the risks now. Take those educated chances now. You really have nothing to lose, and you don't want to have that regret of not taking the chance that you wish you had taken. Worst case, you fail and you dust yourself off, pick yourself back up, and start again. But you don't want to have that regret of not knowing what the outcome could have been.
Yep.
And again, I'm very thankful, appreciative, and happy for what my life has become, and I've kind of created a life that I always dreamed of. But there are always improvements that could have been made, mistakes that happened along the way. The other is networking a little bit more. I think that it's all about people. It's all about the people, especially when you're building an organization. And even if you're not, even if you're part of the team and you're working for a company, it's all about networking in terms of not just who you know, but how well you know them, and demonstrating to them that you're a true friend, a true business associate, and that goes a long way in business. It really is about who you know, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's critical. So to my friends out there, to my young children, it's something that I even talk to them about at this young age. Friendships are critical, whether they're professional, personal, or otherwise. Another thing that I think is really, really important to understand when you're building, especially when you're building an organization, is that not everybody is like you. Typically, somebody that is building a business tends to have a certain mindset. They tend to be headstrong and very focused and driven, for better or for worse.
Yep.
I think that when you're building an organization, regardless of the industry, it's critical to understand that everybody is bringing their own qualities to the table, some of which may not align with yours. And as long as there's not a fundamental character flaw there, that's
Yep.
okay. If there's a difference of opinion, that's fine. If they approach their work a different way, that is probably okay. And I think that a lot of young entrepreneurs fall into the trap of looking for people that are kind of as type A, if you will, or as driven as they are. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody up from that same cloth. That doesn't mean that they can't be a valuable asset to your organization. There's
Yes.
many people within our company right now that are much different than I am. And you know what? They're some of our best people. And
Mm-hmm.
because they make it work for them, their
Yes.
approach works for them. And it's about nurturing that. For me, I walk around with a proverbial water can and in one hand and fertilizer in another. And my job right now is to really feed those people, fuel them so that they can be the best version of themselves. So again, going back to, what would I tell my younger self in the earlier years of growing the business? And really when we launched, I would tell myself, you need to find the assets within each person, not
Mm-hmm.
not just a matter of finding people that you think are going to be like you and work well with you and align yourself. No, absolutely not. I would actually go as far to say is find people that are much different than you, because they're
Yes.
going to bring a whole new set of thoughts and ideas to your business, that they're looking at things through a different lens, that you're not taking that same approach. So I think it's a really important point.
I love it. In you know the in some of the conversations I've had recently with some folks, we've talked about, hey, this person is very detail oriented, and in certain initiatives that we have, we need to have that level of detail orientation so we make sure that there's a ball not dropped. And I think when you're growing an organization such as you have, I love that your eyes are open to, hey, not every lens is going to be needs to be the same. We need people with different lenses that can see what everybody's focused on, the end result. And how can we together work to get to that end result, regardless of what paths we take. Um,
It's true.
I,
It's so
yep.
true. I think that the word diversity is used too often, but I don't think it's understood enough. I
Yep.
think that having a diverse company, organization, team, whatever environment you're in,
Yep.
is about having people that think and behave in different manners.
Hmm.
And it's not about anything else for me. It's a diversity to me is about having a whole different mix of people that are either coming from different walks of life, that
Yep.
have different work patterns, have different opinions of how tasks should be handled. That is
Hmm.
all good stuff. Now, the job, my job, the job of that team leader, for example, is to find everyone's spot, find everyone's position, and where their skill set suits them best. And it doesn't end. That's a job that never ends. It's never set it and forget it. You could have everybody rowing in the same direction, everybody steering in the same direction, and all of a sudden you land a new client and you need to add X% more people, and that could necessarily change the whole dynamic of the existing team. Never mind the new players you bring in,
Yeah.
because that new client might add stresses that didn't exist before. It adds a different workflow that wasn't present in the past. And so, that's another rewarding thing about at this stage of my career is managing those challenges, managing those problems. My 20
Hmm.
self, talking to that person now, another important point is optimism. You have to be optimistic.
Yep.
You're going to have bad days. You're going to maybe lose a client. You're going to maybe lose a great employee. And when you're a team of 4 or 5, losing one person
Yep.
is, losing 20 or 25% of your company. That's huge. But
Yep.
it happens, and it has happened. And
Hmm.
you know, so to those young entrepreneurs that are coming up right now, you have to always find that silver lining. The proverbial silver lining is there. You need to look for it. And sometimes it's not readily apparent. Those in your darkest days, you have to be optimistic. There's no other choice but to put the blinders on, move forward, and recognize that this is all part of the process.
Yes.
and your future self will thank you for getting through that. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be more nimble. You're going to be more efficient.
Yep.
All of this stuff is honed over time, and it's done under pressure. They say iron sharpens iron. There's no better way to get skilled in terms of leadership, building a team, managing a whole portfolio of clients by going through that fire, and it's quite a process. It's not for the faint of heart. And
Yes.
it's I wish I could hold the hand of my sons when they go through that process, or my friends that are, some of which are much younger than I, when they go through that process. But you can't. You got to sometimes go through it alone. And again, if you only could know what it's like on the other side of it, it's very rewarding.
I've seen some clips. I'm sure you have as well, where Gary Vee's talking to a crowd of people, and one of the comments that he made that really resonated with me is, as a business owner, don't expect that your people are going to have the same drive and passions that you as a business owner, you as the owner of that business have, because they're there. Oftentimes they're there for um, because the job, it fills a need that they have. you know if the the company goes away, they're still going to be looking for another job. But if the company goes away, as a business owner, it's a lot more personal. It's a lot more, um, um, it digs a little bit deeper. And so as you were talking through that, that was a clip that kind of um, came back in my mind, because it's like, that's why you want to fill your circle with people that have different lenses of how they approach the problem. Because if you have everybody just focused in in the same manner that you are, you're going to be missing things on the peripherals, unfortunately. So
It's true.
yeah.
It's true. And, one of the things that has evolved quite a bit since, over the past 20 years, if I was talking to my 20-year self, is technology. It's
Yes.
really changed the game.
Hmm.
But it's important to tell that young up and coming entrepreneur, or really anybody that's coming up in this world now, don't rely on the technology, and don't discount the value of human beings, because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, those relationships are paramount. Technology comes and goes. We've seen it.
Yes.
And whatever industry you're in, there are different technologies that are more germane than others, but they
Hmm.
come and they go, and
Yep.
it's very cyclical. The one constant are human beings and
Mhm.
relationships and people. And you never know where someone's going to be in their career 20 years from now.
Yep.
One of the things I like to do if I'm investing in a small local business, or even consulting for one and advising one, is I like to take that owner out to lunch or
Hmm.
breakfast. And I like to see how they treat the busboy or the waitress,
Yes.
somebody that maybe they don't think they can offer them a whole lot, just
Hmm.
to see the character of that person. That to me is a test. You talk about how you behave when a client's not looking. That to
Yep.
me is really the litmus test, because they could have all the drive, all the accolades,
Hmm.
great education. They could be a complete five-tool player, but
Yep.
if they don't know how to treat people, that is a major character flaw for me.
Yes.
So, to the driven young up and coming entrepreneur or professional, I say to them, don't be so short sighted to think that somebody that is in a certain spot now won't be in another spot in 5, 10, 15 years from now. And they
Yep.
could be in a spot to help you. Now, that sounds,
Hmm.
really what it's about is staying connected to people and valuing relationships, and recognizing that we are all in this together. As maybe kumbaya as that sounds, it
Yeah.
really is about, at the end of the day, it comes down to the people. That is critical.
You know what? The the greatest example that I think you and I share is a mutual connection of ours who actually brought us together. It's somebody that I started off my career with 30 plus years ago. Um, yes, I was two when I started off, as a lot of us were. Um, but keeping those relationships going for 30, 40 years. Um, and even if it's not somebody that is local to you, but they may have moved on, they may have achieved more, they may have achieved less, but as long as you keep that personal relationship going, you just never know where those are going to land. And it's awesome when those relationships will be okay with introducing you to other people in their network because they feel that you are a trusted a trusted resource that others could learn from. And in our conversation so far, I mean, I've learned a ton from you already. So I really appreciate the fact that our friend Kelly, I'll name her, I don't have a problem with it, was able to go ahead and bring us together. So um,
Yeah, it is a small world. And,
yeah.
one of my mentors coming up said something to me that always stuck. And he was himself a kind of a self-starter entrepreneur.
Mhm.
He always said, you can't make too much money.
Yep.
You can never be too honest, and you can't have too many friends.
Mhm.
And that last one really resonates with me and continues to throughout my life and my career. You can't have too many friends. You can't have too many people
Yep.
that, being a friend is about being with them through thick and thin, right? and
Mhm.
and when times are thin, that's when really it shows up. Sometimes very easy and convenient to be a friend when it's thick, and when times
Yes.
are good. But when times are thin, that's when you need to be there. And so, the more people you can do that with, the more people you can demonstrate your
Yep.
friendship to, and the more people you can kind of rise up and boost along the way.
Mhm.
It's just such an obvious thing to me. Again, this is something that I'm trying to teach my sons now. The more
Yep.
people you can help along the way, the more those people will be available to you when you need help. It all
Yep.
comes around.
Yes, and you just never know when you're going to need that support, or that assistance, and it may not, it may have nothing to do with the business that you're in. It may just be you just need an open ear,
That's
at
right.
times, and that's part of the whole mental wellness aspect of the workforce today. Is being, who is it that you can count on, to um, forget about what's going on in your offices, what's going on in your professional careers. You just have somebody that you can trust, that you can just bounce things off of and get a sanity check, for lack of better words. I mean, that's so important. Um, and you one of the things that I've really appreciated about you, Sal, is you seem to have this insatiable appetite for continual learning, and continual improvement, both personally and professionally. And you mentioned the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that and taking that up and being able to interact with folks that you may not necessarily have interacted with, previously, but a sport and a purpose, kind of brought you together. Um, why is it so important for you, personally and professionally, to continually feed your appetite for improvement and for learning?
Yeah, I mean, again, you said it best, personally and professionally. I think that, as far as I know, my thought is, as far as I know, we only live one time, so I'm going to
Yep.
make it count. And I think that, the saddest thing in life is when people don't appreciate
Hmm.
what they have, and sometimes it's too late before you start to gain that appreciation. So
Yep.
thankfully, I kind of just have this mindset. I think part of it is, my dad was an immigrant. He came to this country when he was 17. So from a very young age, I
Hmm.
saw the work ethic. I saw the appreciation for opportunity. And that was just, it wasn't a conversation that my dad had with me or my parents had with my brother and I. It was just there. It was present every single day, the early mornings, the late nights, the 7-day work weeks and all of that. So now that, I kind of was able to stand on my father's shoulders and kind of create this life that I have dreamed of since I was a young boy. It's kind of created an environment for me where I have opportunities to always do things I wanted to do but never had the time to do because I was growing the business. So now that I've got more free time, it's like, okay, great, what's next? So what's next for me is in investing in other businesses, trying to bring up the next generation, trying to really set my sons up, not necessarily financially, but set them up so that they can have their own life that they want, and just it's a blank canvas right now. Create the life that you want. So yeah, one of the things that I've taken up is martial arts, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, MMA training, and I've kind of just stumbled into this whole wonderful world of people that kind of are mission aligned, and they've made it their careers. For me, it's just a hobby, but there's a lot of character building that happens on those mats, and really happened was the kind of most valuable thing for me was it kind of knocked me down a notch, because when I got into it about 6 or so years ago, it's when I started to kind of crest professionally and really get to a spot where I was very comfortable, and started to feel really good about what I accomplished professionally. And then all of a sudden you're stepping on the mats with these literally trained killers, and you get humbled very, very quickly, and you recognize that, okay, I've done well in a certain area of my life, but don't start feeling too good about it, because there's this whole other world out there. And it just kind of reignited a fire in me. So now it's like I'm trying to keep up with these 20 somethings on the mats, and I never will. I'll never get there, but it's that constant pursuit of trying to keep, at least catch them, which again won't happen, but it's kind of like a carrot that's dangled, but the end result is I keep improving myself. I keep becoming a version of myself, and I'm happy with that. And that's all I could ask for. That's personally. Professionally, again, investing in these smaller local businesses, finding, and it's really organic. I'm not out there, advertising or have set up as formerly a private equity fund, but just hearing through my personal network of people that are interested in starting new businesses or getting into new ventures. And even if it's not an actual investment that's being made on my part, just kind of helping them when they need help. They'll bounce certain ideas off of me. We'll have a phone call, we'll have a Zoom call, we'll maybe meet up for a lunch or something. They'll come into my office and we'll talk for a couple of hours. And it's very, very rewarding to give people advice, and you could just see it in their face. It's like a new idea that they stumbled upon. It's like a little golden nugget, and it's just so rewarding to see those people start to kind of progress through their own careers. And I can't wait until my sons are at that point where I can start doing it with them as well, because it's just very satisfying. It's very satisfying to see somebody that has a goal, that has a vision, and has the dedication to get there. And kudos to them for asking questions and reaching out for help and all that. And it's just a beautiful thing. It really is. And one thing I will say also, there's a lot of noise right now, whether it's politically, whether it's socially. We live in a much different world than we did 20 years ago. Right? But I will still say to this generation coming up, the opportunities that are afforded to us in this country are unlike any other. Don't forget it. I feel that America owns at least the next 20, 25 years. Take advantage of that. There are just as many, if not more, opportunities now than there were 20 years ago, than there were 40 years ago, than there were 60 years ago. I really that. And so, I'm a perennial optimist. I just think that I hope and wish that this next generation coming up can see the opportunities that are available to them and seize them.
Yep. Take, be present in the moment that you're in, looking with an eye towards the future on how you can continually improve the future. Um, is so critical. There's, you had mentioned earlier in the conversation, the importance of networking, um, and being okay, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, with reaching out to other people and asking questions, and creating a certain level of vulnerability, for yourself professionally, but also personally as well. I'm not talking like dating apps or anything like that. I'm saying, being able to meet people that have similar thoughts or similar experiences that can help you navigate, um, both personally and professionally. What are some tips that you may have for, aspiring entrepreneurs, aspiring leaders, to take advantage of the networking opportunities that may be out there for them?
It's an excellent question. I think that right now, especially with the advent of technology and social media, I
Hmm.
feel like we're in a much more connected world than we were, say, 20 years ago. And I feel like we're in a much more transparent world than we were, say, 20 years ago. I
Hmm.
think those are all good things. And I think that it's important that young entrepreneurs and professionals recognize how to leverage that environment and leverage those tools to
Yes.
their benefit. More transparency is great, but there's a cost that comes with that. And understanding those costs and benefits are
Hmm.
important. I think that in terms of leveraging yourself and the tools that are available in terms of building your own brand, marketing, and connectivity, these are all things that, in my opinion, were a little bit more difficult than they are today. So again, take advantage of the environment that's available, whether it's LinkedIn, whether
Yes.
it's other social media platforms. The tools are out there. You don't necessarily have to jump on a plane and see somebody face to face. In fact, a lot of it right now, the seeds are sown online, Zoom, LinkedIn, even
Yep.
good old fashioned phone call. One of the mistakes I
Imagine
made.
that.
Yeah, imagine that, right? A good old fashioned phone call. I do think there's a ton of value in face to face connectivity,
Hmm.
visiting prospective clients, dinners, lunches, all that stuff is very, very important. Okay. But I
Yep.
just think that the volume of people that you can reach out and touch, so to speak, um,
Hmm.
is a multiple of what it was prior to the advent of these technological advances.
Yes.
And so take advantage of them. One of the mistakes that I made when I was coming up in the business world was I was so singularly focused on building the business, sitting in our little shoebox of an office,
Hmm.
you know, cold calling prospective clients, interviewing, a new candidate for a position that we had just, posted or put out in an old newspaper ad or something like that. I was so
Yep.
focused on building the business, I didn't do a good enough job with promoting myself, my business, or reaching out and building my network. That was a probably the singular biggest mistake that I made at that
Hmm.
time. And now I'm, forever playing catch up. But it's again going back to that adage that my mentor had told me over 20 years ago, and that is you can't have too many friends.
Yes.
Use LinkedIn, use Zoom, set up your own platform. I mean, think
Yep.
again. I hate that expression. Think outside the box is overused, I would say, but think outside the box in terms of
Yep.
you're not confined, and the technology's out there now where you don't have to be confined. You can create your own network.
Yes.
Whatever you're in, create your own little association. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Nobody joins, no problem,
Okay.
right? Right? It's that's the type of mindset you need to have. This who cares almost a little bit of a cavalier mindset. What's the
Yep.
worst that that's what I wish I could embed in every single one of my younger friends, young professionals, and like I said, my sons. What's the worst that could happen? Who cares?
Yes. You know, I,
Fall down,
I
pick yourself back up.
from an optimist standpoint, you know, I look at it as, what's the worst that can happen? It could be a wild success. Okay.
Right,
And, you know, and whatever that opportunity is, networking, from a networking perspective, what's worse that can happen? It could be successful. Okay, great. It's a good
right,
problem to have.
right.
Um,
And many times it is successful
yes.
because think about how many times people had a great idea and
Yep.
they didn't go for it because they
Yep.
were scared of failure. Think about how many unborn ideas are sitting around right now in a wasteland somewhere because the person that thought of them didn't bring them to light. They didn't
Yes.
bring them to fruition. That to me is one of the saddest things. Again, so I say to a kid coming up, whether it's a new hire in my office or whether it's a kid out on the mats that I
Uh-huh.
roll around with 5-6 days a week, or whether it's
Yep.
my three sons, bring those ideas to the surface, bring them out to light. The worst thing that happen is they don't catch fire, but
Yep.
one of them will. If you keep going at it, something's going to stick. Something will
Exactly.
stick. Bell and Williams was not my first business,
Yep.
and it's not going to be my last, and it certainly isn't my last. So again, you got to keep taking risks. You got to keep taking chances. Throw as much out there as you can,
Yes.
and um, and again, don't be afraid. Fear is a killer.
Yep. And I love the don't take risks, or don't not take risks, um, because you're afraid of failing. Take risks because you're optimistic about succeeding, and you believe in the idea, and you believe um, in the journey that you're about to embark on. And let's bring other people along with us
Right.
during that journey, and everything will work out the way that it was supposed to work out.
Right.
um,
Yeah, it's true. It's true, Mark. And again, I'm the benefit of having two parents that
yep.
gave me unconditional love, and I really stood on their shoulders. So to say I'm a
Yep.
self-made man is completely inaccurate. I stood on my parents' shoulders. I stood on my teacher's shoulders, and everybody else around me, for that matter.
Mhm.
But I realized that not everybody has that benefit.
Yep.
Okay, and so what I try to do is implant that. If I see somebody in my circle, or I see somebody on the kind of the periphery of my circle
Mhm.
that maybe has that self doubt, or maybe has a great idea, they're having a difficult time kind of bringing it to light because they're afraid it won't work, or they don't have maybe they don't have the time to dedicate towards it because they're busy trying to like pay their bills
Mhm.
and keep the lights on, so to speak. That's where I find it very rewarding to try and help those people, because that person didn't have the benefit of growing up with, maybe a stable, healthy, loving household, or
Mhm.
maybe they had tougher circumstances coming up. That person deserves a shot. And so I think it's important for people of my generation, and maybe with means to do it, to try and bring those people up. I there are a million great charities out there, and I get hit up all the time. But the people that I like to help, and the ones that I really like to donate my means and or time to, are the ones that are closest to home, that I can see, touch, feel, and really kind of nurture and bring up. And I think it's a labor of love. It really is
I,
what it is.
I would offer that you're a living example of where your network doesn't have to be out there in the ecosphere somewhere. There's enough opportunity to make a difference in your own community and the communities that you live in, that if you take the time, such as you have, you can really be very impactful where you are, um, more so than you know, posting out there, oh, I help this company and I help that company. It's really those small wins to help people solve their big problems, um, that may be small problems for much larger organizations.
It's well said.
So,
It's very well
you
said, and
know,
it's very true.
yep. So hats off to you, my friend. Um, Well, we've gotten to the point of the of our episode where I call it the speed round. Are you ready for this?
I,
All
I,
right.
I was born ready, I think.
Excellent. I would agree with you on that. So, what fact about Sal would people be most interested or most surprised to learn about you?
I'm not being very speedy right now. But most people in my professional life don't realize that I'm a sweet, kind of tender, nice guy. I think that people make assumptions that because of the industry I'm in, or
Yeah.
that maybe I'm kind of hard or tough to deal with. Or that's not the case at all. It's
Yep.
once you get past that initial layer,
Uh,
I'm really kind of softy.
awesome. Awesome. And I'm sure your kids and your family would definitely back you up on that.
For
Because
sure.
they get to experience that all the time.
That's right.
So
Most of
yeah.
the time. Most of the time.
Yeah. Now, not the guys on the mat with you, but you know.
They really
Yeah,
see how soft I am.
exactly. Well, so what's your go-to tactic for unwinding after a stressful day?
Sauna. I recently started sauna maybe 9 or 10 months ago, and
Okay.
it's like a little 30-minute vacation. You get in there,
Nice.
and there is some discomfort, but it's just once you're out of that thing and you shower off, it's just you sleep like a baby, and that's
Yes.
kind of my go-to.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Sal, if someone wants to pick your brain about the work that your company does, I mean, you said you're in debt collections and repo space, um, but if they want to pick your brain about your company or just the industry as a whole, if you're attending any conferences, if you're doing any events, either locally or nationally, how could they go ahead and get in contact with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest, quickest way. I'm on it all day,
Yeah,
every day. I'm checking in there, so I'm really easy to get a hold of through LinkedIn. And would
excellent.
love to talk to anybody really that has any questions about who we are as a company, or even if you're in a different industry. I mean,
Yeah.
Mark, you and I are intertwined through a mutual connection, but we're
Yeah.
in separate spaces, I would say. But
Hmm.
really, I think there's a lot of benefit in aligning yourself with obviously people in your industry, but I think there's just as much, if not a greater benefit, aligning yourself with people outside of your industry, because they're hearing stuff. If I'm talking to somebody that's another owner of a repo management company, or a repo forwarder as we're known,
Uh,
they're reading the same publications that I am for the most part.
yep.
They're dealing with some of the same clients for the most part. They're dealing with a lot of the same challenges, a lot of the same industry news and all that. That's great. It's important
Yep.
to know those folks. It's important to align yourselves and have fruitful relationships with those people. But I almost think it's more important and more valuable from a professional development standpoint to
Yep.
have relationships with people outside of the industry.
Hmm.
Um, as novel as that may sound, because it's a fresh approach. They're looking
Yes.
at things from a completely different lens. They're reading things you would never even think about, or probably even knew existed. And
Yep.
I think there's a whole lot of value in that.
And we're definitely examples of that because we both learned something from each other in the short time that we've known each other. And
True.
I'm very appreciative of being introduced to you, having these types of conversations. We actually got a chance to meet in person,
We did.
um, even though we're in we live in different parts of the country. But I'm very appreciative and humbled by that. So, um, Sal,
Likewise.
thank you very much for being a guest on this episode. And
Was,
if anybody wants to have an introduction with Sal, feel free to either go on LinkedIn or and reach out to him directly. Or I have no problem with doing an intro. If you just want to pick his brain a little bit, great conversationalist. You'll enjoy anytime you get to spend chatting with Sal. So Sal, thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Likewise.
Thanks.